killing of Osama bin Laden inside the 40-minute raid and reaction from Chicagoans.
Plus, could it be a critical clue? New photos released of the Oak Park Strangler.
And spreading the pain, gas prices reach new heights nationwide. Newsbeat starts now. We begin with the death of the world's most wanted terrorist. Good morning, I'm Anna Samovska.
And I'm Lucas Seiler. We're learning more about that ambush inside the massive compound in Pakistan. Meanwhile, the FBI has quickly updated its most wanted list. As you can see under Osama's headshot, it now says deceased.
Newsbeat's John Treeweiler begins our live team coverage in the newsroom. John?
That's absolutely right, Anna and Lucas. President Barack Obama made one of the toughest decisions a president has to make earlier this weekend, that of sending the U.S. military in to capture and hunt down one of the most wanted men in the world. Ever since the tragedy of September 11th, Americans have waited over a decade for Osama bin Laden to be held accountable for his actions.
Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda.
Obama issued the order late Friday to send U.S. Special Forces in. The raid went down just 35 miles outside of Islamabad, where about 40 Special Forces members found bin Laden in a fortress-like compound, and after a brief firefight, killed and took custody of his body.
We were not going to put our people at risk. The president put a premium on making sure that our personnel were protected, and we were not going to give bin Laden or any of his cohorts the opportunity to carry out lethal fire on our forces. He was engaged and he was killed in the process.
Rose Economou, a journalism professor and international expert at Columbia College Chicago, says this day was a long time coming.
The capture and death of Osama bin Laden would have been an incredible event if it had happened 5 years ago.
However, Economou and White House officials warned that retaliation could be near.
And if we're being very naive, if we think that they're not going to try to attack us, both here and abroad.
That the battle to stop al-Qaeda and its syndicate of terror will not end with the death of bin Laden.
Officials and terrorism experts are warning Americans to be much more vigilant and on high alert. President Barack Obama will mark Osama bin Laden's death at Ground Zero on Thursday. Joining us now with a more local look on this historic moment is our very own Allison Rodriguez, live on Michigan Avenue. Allison?
Thank you, John. It's what everyone is talking about here in Chicago. Today, security has been stepped up at trains and airports all over the country. In fact, the NBA has ordered metal detectors be placed at all remaining playoff games, including here at the United Center. Chicagoans stopped by to tell me what they thought about this historic moment. Just a short while after news broke of Osama bin Laden's death, crowds gathered all over the country to mark the bittersweet occasion. As people waved American flags, the crowds chanted USA and others sang the national anthem. This was the scene at Sunday night's Phillies game after the news spread across the stadium. We took a look closer to home to see how Chicagoans felt about the news.
It's a bit of relief here, and hopefully there's no
further attacks.
I was happy that they found him.
I was glad to hear that he was taken out of the picture and can't do any more harm to our country.
Paula Gonzalez was in her native Venezuela when 9/11 happened. She feels like this is a new beginning for the U.S.
Well, I believe it's a great success to America, and it's a beginning to a new era of peace and tranquility for the country.
Although many are relieved about the death of Osama bin Laden, some have new concerns about what this news could mean for his followers and other terrorist groups.
I'm happy, but I don't think it's going to end violence and extremism. You need to get rid of the structures.
That was just one person, and I don't know if that really rectifies what issues are probably going to pop up after this.
No, while I was out, I actually ran into a former Marine. He told me he really didn't care one way or another. He just hopes the troops in Afghanistan will be able to come home now. Reporting live from Michigan Avenue, Allison Rodriguez, Newsbeat. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Allison. That raid that killed Osama bin Laden was first leaked on Twitter. An IT worker living in the Pakistani town of Islamabad tweeted that he saw the helicopter and that a loud bang had rattled his windows. Hours later, he posted another tweet, "Oh, I'm the guy that live blogged the Osama raid without knowing it."
Mayor-elect Rahm Emanuel goes outside for Chicago's next police chief. His name is Gary McCarthy, the top cop in Newark, New Jersey. The 51-year-old joined the New York Police Department in 1981 and quickly rose through the ranks. McCarthy was once a candidate for the Chicago job in 2003. He'll be sworn in as a civilian police superintendent until he is certified as a police officer in Chicago. Chicago's First Lady, Maggie Daley, is back in the hospital with flu-like symptoms. Mrs. Daley had just been released 4 days ago after experiencing nausea and dehydration. Doctors say it has nothing to do with her cancer. Last month, Mrs. Daley spent 10 days in the hospital for surgery to replace a metal rod in her leg.